In the twilight, the old mansion stood tall against the horizon, its ancient stones whispering of days long gone. Golden light spilled from its windows, painting the ground with flecks of luminance, and the distant hum of music promised an evening of rare delight. Guests, like shimmering moths drawn to the glow, poured through the grand entrance. Their footfalls echoed on the marble floor, their laughter intertwining with the harmonious notes of a piano. The room, vast and ornate, glittered under the influence of countless chandeliers. Crystal glasses clinked, and the murmured conversations of the elite filled the room. Elena Morrows, a figure of subtle grace amidst the crowd, made her way into the ballroom. Her eyes, curious and always observing, darted around, taking in the sights. But this wasn't her first ball, and she was not here just for the dance or the tantalizing appetizers being offered by servers. She was here because of a story, a tale passed down in hushed tones in her family. As she moved, her gaze landed on a peculiar sight, a small stall that looked out of place amid the opulence. And on it, resting on a plush velvet cushion, was an ornate porcelain mask. The mask was a masterpiece, painted with exquisite patterns, its empty eyes seeming to beckon the onlookers. A frail vendor, almost concealed in the shadows, stood behind the stall. Her hooded figure added an aura of mystery, and she didn't engage in the loud peddling seen with other sellers. She simply stood, waiting, her gaze fixed on the mask. Drawn like a magnet, Elena approached. The murmurs of the ball seemed to grow distant, replaced by a palpable silence around the stall. The vendor's eyes, deep-set and unreadable, watched her but did not move to speak. Reaching out hesitantly, Elena touched the mask's cool surface. It felt like touching a frozen lake, the chill surprising yet intriguing. And then, faintly, she heard it whisper. A voice? Or perhaps just the wind? She couldn't tell. The world around her blurred for a moment, her focus solely on the mask. "I'd like to try it on," she heard herself say, her voice sounding distant to her ears. The vendor gave a slow nod, and Elena lifted the mask to her face. As the porcelain met skin, the atmosphere in the room shifted perceptibly. Lights flickered, the music distorted into a slow, eerie tune, and the temperature dropped. Elena, the mask fitting perfectly, looked out at the ballroom, her vision tinted. She felt different, empowered, yet not entirely herself. The guests around her, feeling the change but unaware of its source, looked around in confusion. Whispers spread like wildfire, their tones ranging from curious to concerned. Elena's demeanor had shifted. She no longer seemed like the observer. She was now a woman with a mission. She began to navigate the crowd, her eyes searching and her steps determined. And as she moved, the room's dynamics continued to change, shadows elongating, chandeliers swaying as if disturbed by an unseen force. The ball, initially a scene of enchantment, was swiftly transforming into a tableau of impending doom. And at its epicenter was Elena, with the porcelain mask, now a vessel of something ancient, powerful, and vengeful. Guests, sensing the unease but not its origin, began grouping together, seeking solace in numbers. But the night was young, and the real dance, one of fate and revenge, was just about to begin. The mask seemed to merge seamlessly with Elena's face, its intricate designs reflecting the flickering lights of the room. As she moved through the crowd, guests instinctively parted for her, sensing the unnatural energy she exuded. The atmosphere grew tenser, the jovial tunes of the orchestra now replaced by a haunting melody that echoed through the ballroom. The very air grew colder, and guests rubbed their arms for warmth, exchanging glances of confusion and concern. Elena's eyes scanned the crowd until they fixed on two figures, an older man and woman, both elegantly dressed. They stood near the balcony, their postures exuding a confidence that came with age and stature. Their laughter had an edge of arrogance, and their eyes held a glint of mischief. But as Elena approached, their demeanors shifted. Recognition flashed in their eyes, followed by alarm. They seemed to know, or at least sense, the purpose behind Elena's approach. Their laughter faded, replaced by a tense silence. Without preamble, Elena, her voice an eerie blend of her own and another's, whispered an accusation. Words of betrayal, of a long-ago tragedy, and of a debt that needed settling. The specifics of her words were a blur, but their intent was crystal clear. The room's temperature seemed to drop even further, and the earlier sense of celebration was now completely overshadowed by dread. The two older guests, realizing the peril they were in, tried to retreat. But Elena was swift, her movements influenced by the vengeful spirit of the mask. She blocked their escape, her gaze piercing and unwavering. Guests, sensing the imminent danger, began to panic. A few tried to intervene, to reason with Elena, but they were effortlessly pushed aside, as if by an invisible force. The haunting music grew louder, echoing the escalating tension in the room. Suddenly, with a gesture that seemed almost casual, Elena summoned a powerful force. The grand chandelier, previously illuminating the ballroom with its myriad lights, began to shake. It swayed violently, its chains groaning under the strain. The crowd screamed, scrambling to get out of its path. The two targeted guests, paralyzed with fear, could only watch as the ornate fixture came crashing down towards them. Its descent was swift, inevitable, and final. There was no escape. The impact was deafening. Crystal shards flew in all directions, the once brilliant lights now extinguished. Dust and debris filled the air, and the music came to a jarring halt. When the dust settled, the aftermath was clear. The two older guests lay motionless, victims of a revenge that had transcended time. The mask, having achieved its purpose, seemed to lose its grip on Elena. With a gasp, she pulled it off. The ballroom, previously a scene of merriment, was now filled with chaos. Guests cried out in horror, mourning the lost and tending to the injured. Others were frozen in place, unable to process the night's traumatic turn. Elena, disoriented and overwhelmed, stumbled towards the exit. The weight of the mask's influence and the actions she'd been compelled to commit bore down on her. Her once elegant gown was now torn and dusty, her hair disheveled. As she made her way out, leaving behind the devastation, the mask remained on the ballroom floor. Its porcelain surface, seemingly innocent, held a dark secret, a curse that had claimed its victims, but remained unbroken. The mansion, which had promised an evening of delight, had instead delivered a night of terror. And as dawn's first light began to seep through its windows, the tragic events of the night would forever mark it as a place of sorrow and despair.